While addressing his supporters in Phoenix last night, the president signaled he was willing to endure a government shutdown for the sake of building a border wall.
We are building a wall on the southern border, which is absolutely necessary. Now, the obstructionist Democrats would like us not to do it, but believe me, if we have to close down our government, we're building that wall. Let me be very clear to Democrats in Congress who oppose a border wall and stand in the way of border security. You are putting all of America's safety at risk.
Congressman Steve King represents the state of Iowa. He supports a border wall. He joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker.
I was sitting here in the commercial break trying to think of the people I know personally in Washington who support a border wall. I got to 5 total. That would include you and the president. I'm including employees of the White House. Almost nobody here supports a border wall. The country does. Washington doesn't. How are you going to get it done when so few here support it?
Well, I think that their lack of conviction that's been demonstrated in the past will manifest itself in this little battle, Tucker. And I say that with a bit of sarcasm in my voice, but if you remember that there was a government shutdown in 2013, it was over a principle of not funding the unconstitutional Obamacare legislation that was there, and the president shut the country down, and he closed down our national monuments and made it as difficult as possible for the American people, and eventually Congress caved in on a principle, a constitutional principle, I might add. Well, this is a mandate that came from the American people. The mandate says, build the wall. The president said he's going to build the wall. If he vetoes an appropriation bill because it lacks funding for the wall, $1.6 billion has been his ask. If he vetoes that, Congress has to override the veto. The votes won't be there to override a presidential veto, and eventually this will get done. Another thing is the Democrats are ready to shut the government down if they don't get $500 million in funding for Planned Parenthood. So whose principles are stronger here? The Democrats wanting to fund the abortion that comes out of Planned Parenthood, or the Republicans like me and the president that want to follow through on the mandate that came from the American people? This will get done. The funding will come through. I'm very confident of it, and I say it out loud here and because I believe it'll come true.
What's the counter case against the wall? This is what surprises me. I don't hear a lot of people arguing in favor of the wall. It's a very easy argument to make. It's worked in places around the world where it's been tried. What we currently have doesn't work. We know that. But the argument against the wall isn't really an argument. Why don't Republicans force the left to explain why they're against it?
You know, I don't know why they're working so hard. I think there are many of them that are just overthinking it. And because the opponents have been more vocal, they're buying into some of those arguments. When you bring up the argument that it's too expensive, we can't afford to build it, that's not a serious argument.
No, it's
there
not.
are $60 billion a year in transfer payments that are wired out of U.S. labor. A lot of it is laundered drug money that goes down to south of the border. About half of that to Mexico, the rest to the rest of the hemisphere south of the border. Think of that. And we build interstate highways across expensive Iowa cornfields for $4 million a mile that pays for real estate and everything. We can build a wall cheaper than we can build an interstate, and we need to do it, and it will pay for itself, I believe, before we can even get it completed, and especially because, and in the end, if we do a good job on this wall, we are going to need not more boots on the ground to enforce it, but less boots on the ground, because there'll be few people that try and fewer places where they can get in. This makes complete sense to me, Tucker, and I hope we have a strong national debate over it. The other side can't sustain themselves and face the facts.
But even within the Republican caucus, I mean, do you think the Speaker of the House is for it? My sense is he's not, because he finds it embarrassing or immoral or something. Do you think Speaker Ryan would support a border wall?
Well, I remember a conversation I had with the Speaker in the first week or so in January, and his commitment at that time was to provide the President the resources he needs to secure the border. And there was nobody at that time thinking that building a wall wasn't part of the resources needed to secure the border. Right. So I think the Speaker has a commitment. He lacks the enthusiasm that I have, Tucker, but I'm hopeful that he'll understand it. This is going to be a legacy for Donald Trump, but more importantly than that, the wall is a monument to the rule of law, and that's the difference between the third world and first world. And I'll say that if you look around the world, there have been many walls built throughout history. I asked Victor Davis Hanson, one of America's preeminent historians, has there ever been a case other than the Berlin Wall where a wall was built to keep people in rather than to keep them out. And there's a significant moral difference. He said, I think maybe the North and South Korea would be the exception. Yeah. And other than that, all the other walls are built to keep people out. They are moral, they work. History is full of them.
Exactly. Congressman King, thanks a lot for coming by tonight.
Thank you, Tucker.